Hello again. Now this is another part of me making a record player out of scrap and junk and just bits and bobs I've got left lying around the house. So you may wonder why I've got this rather cheap and nasty ion deck on the table again. I showed this to you in the very first episode. So the reason for this is I'm now onto the tone arm, so I'm going to use hopefully a straw. Now this is rigid, but we'll see if it's rigid enough. It's about the right length, and as you can see I'm using this deck as a comparison. So the other thing that I need is the mount for the or the head shell that mounts the cartridge in, and I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to copy it using a piece of balsa wood. I'm just going to mark out something similar on balsa wood. Now this one takes cheap and nasty ceramic cartridge. I too have some cheap and nasty ceramic cartridges. These aren't exactly the same, but they're very similar. I do have the correct pins for that, so I can attach the cables. I had considered using something like this. Now this is very tempting. This is actually the pickup for a hard drive, and you can well imagine that being the main mount to sort of like bring the tone arm over the record. But that involves stripping down an old hard drive, and it's actually quite heavy, so I'd have to consider how to mount that and making sure that the weight didn't actually rest on the record. So I was thinking maybe some sort of universal joint, and I was thinking, well, springs can be used as universal joints, and I found this one here. This is actually an expansion spring, but it's also works quite well as a universal joint, and it actually will slip inside this straw. So if I take that into position and then sort of screw that to the woodwork, that would actually work as a very simple universal joint. Okay, just a little note about connecting the clips onto the wires. These are the clips that connect to the pins on the back of the cartridge. Now they're supposed to be crimp connections, but I've never had any luck with crimping them. They just fly off my hand and disappear forever. So I've resorted to soldering them. If you do solder them, firstly, don't solder them when they're actually attached to the cartridge. 2, use a tiny little amount of solder. If the solder goes up inside the part of the connector that fits onto the pin, then you won't go over the pin and it won't fit and it'll be ruined. Right, I've now wired up the cartridge, so I've connected up one of the channels through the wires here to a standard phono jack going into this old amp and going out to a pair of cheap headphones. Now if I actually touch the stylus, you should be able to hear the sound coming out of the headphones. Just bring it a bit closer to the camera. I'll put them over here. Just a bit of a rustling noise. So now to assemble and mount the tone arm. Okay, so I've got it all connected up. I've got the tone arm mounted. Time now for a little test with a speaker. I've got a little speaker. I was trying to find something bigger, but it's eluded me at the minute. I'll put the stylus down in the middle of the record. There's still a tracking problem. I think the mechanism by which I'm pivoting the tone arm is just not adequate. So I'm going to have another look at that, but let's give it a go. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. More to follow, and if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Mr. RG Stuff.